Going to 7-Elevens today still gives me chills because of this incident. Bit of backstory. I am female, was 15 at the time, fairly petite, and dangerously polite. My brother was 12, my cousin was 4 years old, but was, and still is, much taller and more built than his age, as he takes after his giant of a father. It's the summer of 2013, so sorry if some details are a little fuzzy, and my parents are struggling with their finances. We can't go on fancy vacations, so they ship us off to our aunt and uncle's place, a couple of times over. They're happy to have us, as my cousin is an only child, and liked having someone to play with. It's our 4th or 5th, can't really remember, day there. A Saturday. My uncle works in the nearby city, and is finally back from an extended stay. He wants to take us to a zoo about 45 minutes from their house, as it's really big and has a great elephant exhibit, my cousin's favourite animal. My aunt decides not to go, as she's recovering from a bad ankle sprain, so my uncle decides to take all 3 of us by himself. Was this the smartest idea? Probably not. But I was more than capable of helping to look after my brother and cousin, and had done it multiple times by myself before. My uncle's also huge, as mentioned. He stands at about 6'5", and weighs a solid 240. And he looks really intimidating too, with a clean-shaved head and big muscles. However, the phrase, gentle giant, has never applied more to someone else. We drive for about 20 minutes, before we stop at a gas station to use the restroom, get drinks and snacks, stretch, etc. It's your standard 7-Eleven, but more long from entrance to the back of the store than it is wide, if that makes sense. The drinks are in the back of the store, so after using the bathroom, we go there. My uncle wants to buy chips, as he has a serious savoury tooth, and heads to the next aisle to check the selection out. My brother's being impossible about his drink choice, so we're standing there, trying to decide what to get, when a guy enters the same aisle as us. Keep in mind, it's been all of 2 minutes since our uncle left us. He's sort of old, maybe late 50s, and looks a lot like Santa Claus. It sounds crazy saying it now, but for a second, I was genuinely stunned into thinking this guy was the jolly fat man from Christmas movies. White hair, a bit of a white beard, small little spectacles covering twinkling eyes, and a button nose, lightly tinted pink. I think his appearance lulled me into a less suspicious state. The only thing that didn't resemble Santa was his outfit. Something more summer appropriate, I can't put my finger on today. And the type of twinkle in his eye. Sure, Santa may have liked kids, but he didn't like them that much. He starts off by lingering 5 feet away from us, pretending to check out drinks while glancing over from time to time. My guard is up, but I just grip both my brother and cousin's hands and remind myself that my uncle is just the next aisle over. He slowly inches closer to us, with a weird, shuffling motion, and when he's about a foot away, he smiles really widely. "Your brother is really adorable," he says really quietly, almost in a whisper. My grip automatically tightens on my brother's hand, but then I realize it's my baby cousin the guy is talking about, as he's staring right at him. At this point, the dangerously polite part of my brain kicks in, and I say thank you. Stupid, I know. But although I'm not naive, some of the manners drilled into my head always come back to me at the worst times. Besides, my cousin was pretty cute, as he was a bit chubby, and had big brown eyes, rosy cheeks, and a dimpled smile. My brother has yet to acknowledge the guy as he didn't hear him, and is concentrated on picking his drink. The guy inches a bit closer as I inch a little away, and try to push my brother and pull my cousin as subtly as possible. "I have a granddaughter close to his age. Why don't you get in my car and I'll take you to her so your brother and she can play." I look young for my age, but I must have looked especially young that day if that guy thought I was going to get anywhere near him or his car. "No thanks, sir," I try to say as firmly and menacingly as possible, raising my voice a little. The guy notices and looks a little panicked as he scans the area quickly and shoves his hand into his pocket. He pulls out a second later and opens a fist to reveal gummy vitamins, the ones covered in sugar that your parents used to trick you with to take them. Now remembering them to each be individually wrapped with what I think was saran wrap, with about 5 gummies in total. "Here, take these. You kids need your vitamins," he insists, trying to shove them at me. At this point I'm done being polite, and I loudly shout, "Uncle Tim!" He's there in a flash, and nearly gave the guy a heart attack as he must have not realized the huge guy in the next aisle was with us. We're Asian, he's Caucasian, and since my aunt is Asian, my cousin looks more like us than him. The guy takes one look at my uncle and dashes for the front door. My uncle chases him, but he's much slower, as this guy is surprisingly fast for a mid-50s man, and by the time my uncle gets to the entrance, the guy has jumped into a car with the engine still running and peels out. My uncle informs the store clerk, who in turn calls the police, who show up 20 minutes later and can't really do anything about the situation, as we didn't get a license plate. We do give a description, and they send a patrol car out to look for him, but by then he was long gone. We ended up going straight home after, as the incident shook my uncle up really badly, and I think to this day he still blames himself for not sticking directly by our side. It's only a couple days later that shit actually hits the fan. The guy had dropped the gummy vitamins on the floor in his haste to leave, and the police had taken them to get tested. The results came back, and the stuff I thought at the time was sugar wasn't actually sugar. It was meth powder. So, to the sick fuck that tried to give little kids gummy bears coated with meth, I honestly hope you rot in hell. Note: my parents were informed of the incident and nearly had heart attacks, especially when they found out about the contents of the gummies. We did go to a police lineup about a week later to try to identify the guy, but none of the suspects were him. All I could tell the police was that he was Santa Claus. This all happened when I was about 15 years old. I was going through a pretty difficult time. I had just revealed to my parents about the sexual abuse I had suffered through at age 8 by my half-brother, who was 7 years older than me. This was coupled with the fact that I had depressive episodes and suicidal thoughts starting at the age of 11 from being bullied by my older sister for many years. I'm guessing my parents told my grandmother about what I was going through because she, in turn, told my mother about a man at church who was a psychologist. She thought it would be a good idea for me to talk everything out with a nice Christian man who dealt with this sort of thing. At this time in my life, I was already hinting to my mom that I wanted to go speak to a therapist, so I agreed to meet with him, despite feeling nervous. So, the weekend arrived and he came over. Our introduction wasn't at all creepy. He had a friendly face, kind smile, and was at least in his early 30s. Nothing ever indicated that he had bad intentions. He suggested that we go for a ride in his car and just talk. The thought of being in a casual setting made it less intimidating to me, so I had no problem with this. So I said goodbye to my mom and grandma, and we went on our way. The ride began with a minor chit-chat and exchanging pleasantries. He asked me if I'd ever been to a certain small town near my city, and I told him no, so he decided to take me there. I don't know how quickly it started, but soon enough, he started heavily complimenting my appearance, telling me that I was a very beautiful girl, and talking about how cute I was. At first I just thought he was being a nice guy and didn't think it was too sinister. And as such, I blushed and said thank you in response. I wasn't very used to compliments. My feelings changed, however, when he started rubbing my upper thigh. Being a victim of sexual abuse, this immediately made me uncomfortable. I knew this was becoming inappropriate. We talked about school, what I wanted to be when I grew up, my interests, etc. And he made sure to let me know how intelligent and mature I was. Thinking about it now, it was definitely grooming behavior. What made it worse was that he was driving way too fast. I'm talking 20 miles over the speed limit. I was feeling increasingly unsafe and wished I had not asked to be put in a situation like this. All I wanted to do was go home. He eventually took me to a Robin's Donuts in the small town and bought me an ice cap. While I drank it, his eyes never left me. I mostly kept my eyes down, or basically anywhere else besides him. He asked me if he could see me again, and not wanting to create an uncomfortable situation, I lied and said yes. After I finished the drink, he took me to a nearby dock and held my hand. Alarm bells were ringing in my head, and all I wanted was for this nightmare to end. Eventually, he decided that we should head home. So back to the car we went. Cue more ridiculous speeding and thigh rubbing. Thankfully, he never went too high. When we got back to my house, I couldn't get inside fast enough. I was so relieved to be away from him. He went to go talk to my grandmother. Apparently, they were quite close, and I overheard him talking to her about meeting with me again sometime. I shuddered at the thought. Then finally, he went to say goodbye to me, and I smiled my fakest smile and bid him adieu. When he was gone, I agonized about whether or not I should tell someone about what happened. I didn't want to tell my grandmother because she obviously loved him as if he was her child, and I didn't want to ruin her image of him. I entertained the idea of just sucking it up and seeing him because I was finally talking to a therapist like I always wanted. But I just couldn't. I couldn't be stuck in a cramped space with him like that again. And I was worried that it would escalate. So the next day I asked my mom to meet me in the basement because I had to urgently tell her something. Once there, I didn't really know how to explain how I felt, so I just told her that I didn't want to see him again because he acted as if I was his girlfriend. My mom instantly understood what I meant and told me that she'd talked to Grandma about it. Later that night, I heard her telling my grandma that I'd prefer talking to a woman instead. Grandma was kinda confused about this, but didn't argue. I'm happy to tell you guys that I never saw that creep again. I honestly don't know what ever became of him or if he ever asked about me. I just hope that he didn't end up preying on anyone else. So a bit of backstory. I am 16, female, and quite petite at 5'2", 100 pounds. The friend that was with me was also 16 and female, but stands around 5'7", 5'8". We both live really close to our high school, and thus often walk home together after school. The road to our house is really well lit, and usually very busy. But when we turn into the side street that our house is sit on, the traffic cuts off to a minimum, if anything at all. So we usually walk home in broad daylight, and it's a safe neighborhood, so we're not too worried about creepers, stalkers, general weirdos, etc. That day, we stayed after school a little later than usual, but by no means was it dark out. We'd left around 5, with plenty of sun to still light our way. We turn into our subdivision, and suddenly hear the low rumble of a large car starting up behind us. Think of a really old car that's on its last leg, and couldn't drive quietly even if it wanted to. No idea where this guy came from, but There's a large supermarket on the main street, with a huge parking lot, so he could have easily been staked out there. My friend and I paid no real attention and continued to walk down our street, as her house is midway down the block, and mine is at the far end. Then we notice the low rumble isn't fading away like the guy is driving away, or rapidly increasing in volume like he's going to drive past us, but instead steadily staying at the same volume. I turned around first because I was raised to be super paranoid, and like I said, I frequent this sublot. This crappy truck is driving really slowly, maybe 20 feet behind us. I want to scream because, once again, super paranoid and suspicious of everything. But this has happened before and turned out to be nothing, so I give him a bit of the benefit of the doubt, and assume he could be looking at house numbers or something. After a second, I say screw the benefit of the doubt, as this guy is obviously staring at us through his tinted windows, and not at the houses. My friend notices I'm almost pissing myself, and asks what's up, to which I casually tell her that there might be someone following us. She flips out and whips her head around with no subtlety. It's really not her fault. I would have done the same had our positions been switched, and sees the car trailing us. At this point it's pretty obvious we've seen him, so the guy speeds up a bit, so he's just a couple feet parallel from us, then slows down again so he's keeping pace, and rolls down his window. I get my first real look at him. Mid-30s, early 40s. Dark hair, weird stubble connected to his sideburns. Small, dark, beady eyes. "Hey, you girls look like you could use a ride," he says, power creepy pedophile style. I'm literally shitting bricks at the moment, as this is exactly what happens in every L&M I've ever read, and I never expected it to happen to me, especially not in broad daylight. "No thanks," my friend says casually, and we continue walking. The guy is keeping pace and leaning out of his window. "No, really. Wouldn't want your pretty feet to get tired." My friend and I shoot each other a look, and I can tell she's panicking as badly as I am, and neither of us have a damn idea what to do. We can't lead this guy to our houses. We don't answer, and the guy continues, rambling on about how cute we both are, and how he's going down this road anyway, so he can take us wherever we need to go. My phone's in my bag, probably somewhere near the bottom, and most likely dead, and I wouldn't risk provoking this guy by reaching for it even if I could. We tell him again that no, we're okay, and to kindly fuck off. Nicer terms, of course. Not looking to get stabbed. He then thrusts his arm out the window, and I nearly have a heart attack thinking he's going to grab us. He shows us his ring finger, adorned with a gold band, and smiles. "You know this ring isn't real, right?" As if I give a flying fuck about if you're really married or not. He spends the next minute trying to convince us that he's not really married, and that he's a good guy who could treat us right. So basically he went from, "Hey, let me give you a lift," to, "Hey, I'd treat you real nice." My friend reaches her neighbor's house, and grabs my hand and pulls me into the backyard. He's retired Navy, and pretty much told us that if we're ever in trouble, we should bring any creeps to his yard so he can beat the shit out of them. She bangs on his back door, and he opens up within 5 seconds to ask us what the hell is going on. Then, seeing the terror on our faces, he lets us in, hears our story, and goes out with his semi-automatic pistol to the creep who's parked on the street in front of his house. He comes back in 2 minutes later and says he basically told the guy he's got about 2.5 seconds to get the fuck off his block before he blows his pig brains out, or something to that effect. The creep screeches an illegal U-turn in the one-way street and hauls ass out of there. Crappy car squealing like it's about to break down on him. He calls my older brother, who is the only person home at this point, to come pick me up, and escorts my friend to her house. I haven't seen the truck creeper since, but it's a small town, and I'm sure this isn't the last time I'll see his ugly face. Some notes. No, we didn't get a license plate. My friend and I were too stupid to think about it at the time, and my friend's neighbor's only concern was whether the guy would leave or if he'd have to use his gun. Also, my brother's been picking us up for the time being, since that incident. He takes night classes and is usually home from the morning until about 7. But he's never picked me up before, because I never thought it was necessary to, being so close to the school. We did call the police and filed a report, and I gave a description, but with no license plate or other incidents reported, there's not much they can do. Hey everyone, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to episode 49. I know you're thinking, what? Another extra video? God man, what were you thinking? Well, I'll tell you what I was thinking. I noticed that I'm getting very close to episode 50, and I'd really like to start next week with episode 50. Really seems like I should mark that in some way. I'm not really sure how I'm going to do that though. I think what I might do is I'll just find 3 really long stories and rate those, because I've got a bunch saved up. I've got a few long ones in there, and that'll give us a nice long video without breaking the format. Okay, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.